According to this, it's 5:32. We're going to call the meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded by the Community Preservation Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chair at this time. Is there anyone recording? Okay, seeing none, we can move on. Okay, I want to call the meeting to order. Do a roll call of the members to make sure we have a quorum. Okay, Becky?
Yes.
David is not here. Donna?
Yep.
Garth is not here yet. Travis?
Here.
Wisty?
Yes.
And I'm here, Susan. So we have a quorum. Okay. Go ahead.
Didn't we have a new person
We
that,
have a new person starting in October, Jack Redmond from the Greenfield Housing Authority, who is maybe show his face. Hey, Jack. Jack will be joining us. Jack is the new executive director of the Greenfield Housing Authority, and he will be joining us starting in October. He is here as because he is presenting some proposals.
I thought we had someone new from the planning board.
Oh, Peter MacGyver.
Peter MacGyver.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Because, okay. All right, let's begin. Okay, because of the nature of this meeting, and that we're going to be having lots of questions from the committee to various members of the group here, there will not be a general public comment. That we're going to have, that we'll be calling on people as needed in relation to the proposals that are the pre-applications that are put before us. So the first thing I'd like to do is to call for any comments and questions or an approval of the minutes of August 8th.
I motion we approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Sure.
Okay, second with Misty. Okay, any discussion on those minutes? Okay, we don't
Oh,
have,
yeah, you can, there's no
we
one
don't have
virtual.
anybody up there, so we can do it by a raise of hands. All those in favor? Okay, good enough. All right, now, for everybody who is here to talk, to observe and talk with us about these pre-applications, let me explain what we're going to be doing today. Pre-applications are exactly what they sound like. They are an effort for us to help make sure that everybody who is applying is actually eligible for the funding according to the law. The law is funny. So we have spent many hours going, is this right? So we want to make sure that everybody who is applying within the structure that we need to go with. If we have a question that we can't answer, we may hold it out for a few days, try to see if we can get some other advice on it, and we'll get back to you. But we hope to be able to give you an opinion today. Oh, Garth is here too. Good.
Yep.
We hope to be able to give you an opinion today. If we can't, it won't be long before we give you that opinion. Okay. So with that, are there any comments that anybody else would like to make from the committee before we start moving this along? Okay. So let's start out with the Greenfield pickleball expansion. Okay, we're gonna,
Depending on which one it is.
This is the Amy.
this is the Amy Prietti one. Okay.
Hello, I'm here too. Amy's here.
Okay, well, what we just want to go through is, okay, got it. Can we go down further to the descriptive piece? Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
this is pretty much a reapplication of a project that we have deemed eligible in 2 years past, and I therefore move that we accept
Do I have a second on that one?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion, comment on that?
I guess the only thing I'm wondering is if we should just for the public's benefit,
Mhm.
just maybe
Talk about what
explain
it is.
Mhm.
at least
Okay.
a little before
Okay.
instead of just
Okay.
totally
Okay.
right away.
This is the project to build 6 new pickleball courts in the near Abercrombie Field. And this has been something we gave money to do the feasibility study 2 years ago. And so it's now moved beyond that, and we will be looking at whether it moves forward. Any other comments anybody else on the committee wants to make?
One second, Garth, Christy, Amy, all of you can hear it, right? Someone put in the chat that they couldn't hear. So it sounds like it's their technical issue. You can keep going.
I'm able to hear, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So do we have any questions about this for any? Okay, then this one is approved.
We gotta,
Oh, we didn't vote? We didn't vote yet. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, we didn't vote. Okay, all those in favor? Oh, now we've got Garth, so we have to do a voice vote.
Yep.
Okay.
right.
All right, let's start with Donna,
yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Becky. Yes. Wisty,
Yes.
Garth.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes. Okay, so we move forward on that one. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you for applying. Okay, Connecticut River Conservancy. And give this one up.
Mhm.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay. So this is for the restoration and renovation of parts of the old courthouse.
It's
Um,
15 Bank Row.
Right, so and it would be in terms of both historic and it would also involve renovation of various kinds. Does anyone have any questions about this particular project? And how it fits into rehabilitation and restoration in terms of historic resources?
The only question I have is, I didn't look it up whether this building is on the state register of historic places. It is.
It is. It is.
Okay.
It is both on the state and the National Historic Register.
Okay.
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 I think that the phase one is pretty straightforward in terms of, well, no, excuse me. I guess it's easier for me to understand like facade and exterior work and how that works with historical resources as opposed to interior renovations and what that means in terms of preserving something historical. I don't know if anybody of the committee has a comment before we ask the question to,
I think we can.
No, but okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Rebecca Todd, the Executive Director of the Connecticut River Conservancy. Stan Stegeman is our Operations Manager. This also in phase two, which we didn't particularly call out, was daylighting some windows. So if you look across the street on the back side of the building, you'll see that there are cinder blocks or plywood or various other blockages in the historic windows. And so we are proposing to remove those blockages to bring daylight into the building. Also, as part of the interior renovations, we are going to be refinishing the original wood floors and cleaning and painting the original woodwork. So it is, we are in keeping with the historic nature, particularly of the front part of the building, which was built in 1813 and served as the first courthouse here. we are, some of the phase two also includes exterior renovations.
Any other questions before we take a vote?
I noticed there's the preservation restriction from 2002 on the building. Have you already been in touch with Mass Historic about the proposed work?
We have not yet. We've gone to Greenfield, but not to the state, but they basically advised us on how to approach the state. And they suggested that we begin this process, get a letter of support from the Greenfield Historic Commission, and then talk to the state after this.
Would you expect to have that, when would you expect to have that information from the state?
I don't know. I haven't gone through that process yet.
Okay.
Maybe it's already, how long. Well, it depends on what information.
Well-
About whether they approve.
Whether they
the
approve.
proposed changes on the
Yes,
exterior.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're all repairs, so I don't see a lot of obstacle there. There's no significant changes to the appearance, or construction facade. They're all repairs to the existing facade. And roof.
And our perspective is to keep the historic characteristics of the building to the greatest extent possible, and certainly everything on the facade. But I live in a farm that was settled in the 1790s, so I'm really a stickler for preserving what should be preserved.
Any other questions or comments?
I guess just clarifying on the phases, phase one and phase two. In the full application for this year, if you move forward, are you asking for funding only for phase one and then phase two will be later, or are you going to be asking for funding for phase one and phase two this year?
Well, it's actually a 3-phase project. We just included 1 and 2. It will include foundation funding, which we're in the process of applying for, donor funding, membership funding, and organizational resources. So it's kind of this many moving parts over the next 3 years project. So we thought, well, what's relevant now is these are if the other, the whole budget is in the neighborhood of 250,000. So depending on what we hear from different foundations, that will mean we'll be able to get, more or less through phase one and phase two. We're certainly not going to do it with just the money we're applying for here. So it's hard to say how far through phase two we would get until we know from those foundations.
Okay, and then just a follow-up question on phase two. So it says renovating this room into a modern meeting room and full kitchen. I guess I'm just curious if you'd be asking for funding to like build a kitchen in there, because
No, that would come
Okay.
from the foundation.
Okay.
dollars.
just
Yeah,
wanted to
that's-
clarify.
That's not, we realize that's not within your kind of, domain, but it does paint a picture of what we're trying to create as a functional use of a historic space that currently is pretty dilapidated.
When, assuming we approve this, which personally, I don't see any reason why not. Please be clear about where the funding from the CPC would go.
Sure.
Okay, in this whole project, because obviously there are things we can fund and things we can't fund.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and the amount we've asked for would cover just a portion of the very historic renovation pieces, so we can just map that out.
Becky?
Tonight's meeting is just about saying, yes, they're eligible. We're not saying
Right.
anything.
Yes.
That's right,
Yes,
that's correct,
correct.
that's
Wanted
correct.
to be
Yep.
clear.
Yeah, I would make a motion to deem this eligible.
Okay, do I have a second? We have a second? Okay, all right, we've got to do the
Discussion.
The discussion.
I would just add that we are planning to have an information session, and this is just the first step, and we will be looking at narrowing down and supporting you in figuring out how your project can fit within CPC guidelines.
Great. Okay, any other comments or discussion? Okay, then we will go through the roll. Donna? Yes. Travis?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Wisty?
Yes.
Garth?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, so thank you, and we will, you can start up working on the full application. If there are questions, contact Christian, and we will be happy to help you out in any way that makes sense for us.
Great,
Okay.
appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much Becky, for the cookie.
Sure.
You came in right and you wanted a cookie, they're right here.
They're good cookies, they're good cookies. Okay, all right, so on to the next one, which is the Franklin County Agricultural Society.
Right, can
Right,
you
can you pull
pull
up
up the
the,
agricultural side? Is it-
Yeah.
I'm so used to Christian being.
yeah. he's on top of it.
He's reading.
No,
Christian, can you make
Okay.
the text a little bigger? For. Eyes.
okay,
So just for information.
yes,
This is the phase 2 of a project that we funded something very similarly in the past, which is the rehabilitation of the cattle barns at the Franklin County Fairgrounds.
right. So this, we put funding in for the roofs, and this would be for lime wash or the lime washing the building to complete the full rehabilitation of the wooden structures.
I
Seeing
motion
as-
to accept this one.
Second,
Okay, discussion.
I guess I'm looking at, it's under preservation instead of rehabilitation and restoration. So I guess I'm just wondering if this would, I mean, in order to be preservation, it has to be protecting it from harm or destruction.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if staining the wood is that falls under that category, or would it be better under rehabilitation and restoration?
Mike, can you give us an idea of what is the purpose of of doing this lime washing of the walls?
Yeah, I think it's honestly, I think it's a little bit between all of the above, preservation, rehabilitation, restoration. I think the primary purpose for this would actually be more appropriate under rehabilitation. I believe that's what we actually did for the phase 1 project. So I would actually advocate to move that check mark down two boxes.
Okay, any
One
questions?
box rather.
Yeah, we got you. We understand.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mike Nelson on this? Okay, in that case, I will call for a vote. Donna,
yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Becky, Garth,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, so we'll move that one forward.
Great, thank you.
That was a motion? Or do
We
you?
did it.
We did. Garth made, I
Garth,
second.
Got it, sorry.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I know.
No problem. I know, we know. Okay, we have several from the Greenfield Housing Authority. The first one is the Security Deposit and Rental Assistance Fund. Let me just say to everyone, even though I am a commissioner of the Greenfield Housing Authority, I have checked with the ethics board of the state, and I can participate if at any time, however, anybody feels that I am showing some kind of bias or whatever, I will happily recuse myself and hand over the running of the meeting to Donna. So if you're feeling that I'm in any way biased on this. Okay, with that, the Greenfield Housing Authority these funds would be used for direct financial assistance for low and moderate income Greenfield residents in need of application assistance, security deposit, first and last month's rent in order to retain or obtain housing. And the project would help close the financial gap for low and moderate income residents who are struggling to secure housing in Greenfield. Do you want to do a motion first and then we'll have discussion, or do you want to ask questions first? Up to you. Pretty clear.
I'll make a motion to deem this one eligible for CPA funding.
Okay, second, okay. And are there questions or discussion?
I guess I just wanted to point out, we haven't yet in Greenfield CPC history done a housing support project, I don't believe.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And if you look at the chart for what support means, this is basically the definition of.
Oh, good.
So it seems pretty straightforward that that is exactly what this is.
Is there a figure that's being requested?
Not
Not
yet,
yet.
not yet.
Okay.
So do we have any questions for Jack on this one? Or are we ready to vote?
So,
Okay, vote. All right. Donna?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Becky?
yes.
Garth?
Yes.
Wisty? Yep. I'm a yes. Okay, so that one has been approved as eligible.
So I want to ask a question, and I wish I had asked it earlier, but is it clear enough on the application, like, just in case we can't fund the whole thing that, I just see all these and I want to encourage people. Is it necessary to do any encouraging, like think of parks or think of,
Well, we specifically have to ask the question if your project is not funded or not fully funded.
On the
What's your
application.
plan? Yes, it's
Right.
clear on the application.
Okay.
For everyone, we have $193,000 to give out, and we've got 14 proposals in front of us. So just so folks know, this is why this question comes up about partial funding. And we will try to, to fund as much as we can of those that come before us and that we approve, but there's no guarantees on any of this. So we will do our best here. Okay, going on to the next one, Conway Street, creation of additional units at 300 Conway. Okay.
It's super laggy. I don't know why it's doing that.
Okay, so this is the Greenfield Housing Authority owns a parcel of land with sufficient acreage to create apartments for low-income individuals and families. And they're looking for pre-development funding for this and they're seeking a funding through the Community Economic Development Assistance Corporation and working with Massachusetts Housing Partnership. This would be several units that would be going in, depending on what it looks like. Go
Where
ahead.
in Conway?
Hmm?
Where?
300 Conway. On there's an island between Elm and Conway that's right near where the health center is, where
Yeah.
Valley Medical is. It's on that island.
Aren't there two houses there already?
There are a couple of houses, but there's a whole wooded area there.
Okay.
Well, I think this is a straightforward eligible, so I make a motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second?
Yeah, Travis?
Garth got it. Garth.
Got it. Okay. All right. Any discussion? Okay, then we'll have to go to a vote. Okay, Donna,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Becky,
Sure.
Garth,
Yes.
Wisty. Yep. And I'm a yes. Okay, so that one moves forward. Okay, Greenfield Housing Authority swing set at 7 Oak Courts.
This is the one we got advice that because it's not deeded recreation land, this probably is not eligible.
That's correct. Can you speak to that, Christian?
Yeah, so I reached out to Stuart Saganor at the Community Preservation Coalition and asked him about this project because it felt uncertain whether it would be eligible for Community Preservation Act funding. The answer that he said, it does not appear that it's the case that it could receive CPA funding. And the reason being is that CPA funding for recreation projects can only go towards projects that are on what is defined by CPA as recreational land. And for recreational land, the definition is active or passive recreational use, including but not limited to the use of land for community gardens, trails, non-commercial youth and adult sports, and the land use of land as a park, playground, or athletic field. And then includes some things that are not what that is. And Stewart says, it appears that this is a building lot, or at least the parcel has developed buildings on it with housing structures on it. And CPA is for recreational land in an open natural state with no structures on the land. So CPA could fund something in a city park where it's just a park, but a playground that is next to or adjacent to a housing development isn't eligible for CPA funding.
So I've got to say, I found that that explanation or answer kind of confusing. What I'm seeing here is that they're talking about upgrading playground equipment on something that's already a playground. And if the Greenfield Housing Authority owns the land, then isn't that sort of public land anyway, as opposed to putting a playground where there should be a housing unit? So I'm really not clear on this one. That was my concern, like.
I think my reading of that was that since this isn't preserved as recreation land, technically in a few years they could tear it down and build a house there. Like it's not, there's nothing that says it's going to be recreation land going forward. And it's not like a city park or.
Does it kind of fit in the deed restriction category? Does that make sense? You know, kind of, it's not, because when we talk about something going onto a piece of recreation land, it has to be deemed recreation land by the city. Am I correct?
Yeah, it either has to be recreation land managed by the recreation department or have like a conservation restriction on it that says that it will be permanent recreation land going forward.
So is part of it that this isn't like maintained by the rec department, it's maintained by the housing?
No, it's about the land itself.
Yeah. Whether the land is restricted.
I think the only way I could imagine it working is if somehow they were able to split the parcels and that part be its own parcel and then become like conservation restriction or transferred to the recreation department, just the playground part. Otherwise, I think that makes it not eligible.
Yeah.
Jack, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on this as we're trying to go through it and try to figure out where it fits.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, in Northampton, I built a brand new playground at a public housing owned family housing development, almost identical to Oak Courts. And we received in Northampton CPA funds to do that. And what we had to do was agree that the land that the playground was being built on would maintain its recreation use for, I want to say it was 30 years. And we actually hesitated to take on that funding source because, as you can imagine, in 30 years, it becomes a playground that requires a lot of upkeep and most likely a complete replacement. But we ended up moving forward with that. And so I would have to go back and look. The Housing Authority overall is beyond grateful that you're considering our other applications as eligible. This is a project that we still have some time, and I can help my resident services coordinator look to see if we have any funds internally to help work on this. So I understand if this is a complicated eligibility process that you want to deem this one ineligible at this time.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jack on this one?
Yeah, I have just a further part of that email from Stuart, which is kind of what Jack is speaking to. Stuart said there's sometimes way to transfer land into recreational use, so you can use CPA funds to build recreational assets. In this case, he said it's not possible, but it sounds like Jack found a way to make it work in Northampton. A housing authority land is state-owned property, not municipal property, and the state wouldn't allow any type of restriction or recreational designation on a housing parcel. So theoretically it is possible, but it sounds like usually it's not, at least in Stewart's experience.
The state.
State-owned, but that's, I would argue that housing authority is not state-owned property. It's kind of this mixture of, it's a quasi-public ownership kind of thing. It's a kind of unto itself, a separate, more of an authority than anything else, but it's not a state entity. So I think that there Stewart is wrong.
I would make a motion to table this one for further review.
Okay, is there a second for that?
And so are you asking him to kind of look into it and come back?
I feel like we're not gonna answer this question tonight,
Yeah.
and maybe it needs a little bit of follow-up.
Even
I guess I personally think I'm ready to vote that it's ineligible.
Okay.
Just because, and I was gonna add that, nothing against Northampton, but I know we've been told over and over that just because a CPC in another town does something, it doesn't mean they did it right. And it doesn't mean they did it legally under CPA law.
So we've got one motion on the table. Does anyone want to second Donna's motion to table this? Seeing none, I will move to another motion.
I'll make a motion that this project is ineligible.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, Becky has seconded. Okay.
Great.
All right, so is there any more discussion on that one? Okay, put it to a vote. Donna?
No.
Wait, no means it's eligible. Okay, let me make sure that
Okay.
we're clear on this. Okay, we are saying
Chris
it's
is-
ineligible, therefore a yes is agreeing that it's ineligible. A
Right.
no is it's eligible.
A no is not saying it's eligible, but not saying it's ineligible.
Okay, not saying it's ineligible, it's
If you
just
all,
saying.
if you all voted no, you do another motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, no,
No.
okay, Travis.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Garth.
Yes.
Wisty.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes, so so this carries. So that one will not go forward for the CPC. Okay. And the next one, Greenfield Housing Authority, Winslow Preservation, 9 Wells Street.
It's still like, I'm not even moving and it's still moved.
Okay, for those, Winslow is on the corner of Wells Street and Main Street. It consists of 55 units of single-room occupancy housing. The residential, the 4-story portion of the building was built in 1920 and underwent renovation in 2010. And this will address capital needs, including the roof, repointing, crack repairs, brick replacement and window replacements to assure that it's watertight. So this is under the category of preservation in community housing.
Yeah, me and Jack had a brief email exchange, just clarifying about the importance of preservation versus rehabilitation versus maintenance of a building for CPA. Preservation is allowable, rehabilitation is not. The nuance there can be found in the chart down here, with preservation being protecting the building from property from injury, harm, or destruction, basically preventing it from falling apart. Rehab is just capital improvements to make it intended for its functional use. There's a whole, it's not a legal opinion, it's an opinion from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities on kind of specific categories of what you do to housing that would fall under eligible versus ineligible. As far as I can tell, what Jack listed is all eligible. He looked at that, of course, when submitting the application. So.
Any questions either for Jack or among ourselves?
Motion to move this one forward.
Right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Travis seconds. Okay, any other comment or discussion? Okay, then we'll go for the vote. Donna,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Becky, Garth,
Yes.
Wisty.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay, so that one goes forward. Okay, more pickleball. Okay, we're going to, this is for capital improvements and climate change mitigation for the pickleball and basketball courts at Green River Park at 22 Petty Plain Road. Oops. It's so slow. Okay, come on, come on. You can do it. Okay. Basically, this is to deal with the fact that the pickleball court services have gone through their expected life. They're need to be resurfaced, and due to wear and climate damage, and it requires a complete regrinding and replacement. And the basketball court also is similarly deteriorated. There were also some issues that where the concrete pylons were improperly installed and need resetting. Climate change has accelerated the freeze-thaw cracking, and heat has exacerbated damage, and a new drainage ditch is also being required to deal with the solar heat. My question on this one is it rehabilitation and restoration, or is it repair and maintenance?
Yeah.
And that's the middle ground, because we are not allowed to support maintenance. See, Mike, are you here?
Mike is not here, but
Okay,
he
let's-
asked me to
Okay.
attend in his stead.
Okay.
This is his proposal. I'm only a little familiar with it, but what he is looking at doing, or would like to have done,
Mhm.
is a complete, not just a resurfacing maintenance
Mhm.
done on the court itself, but to replace the court with this product called Versatile, which is an interlocking polypropylene. It's like, it's sort of like blocks that interlock that you can put on your driveway.
Mhm.
They're permeable, so the water drains through them. Playing there almost every day, like a lot of people. When there's heavy rains, when there's, especially he mentions thaw in the spring, there's a small, a lot of drainage that goes across the court. And that is a problem because the court's lower than the ground. So this is going to raise the level of the court, this modification. Whole new court, raise the level, the drainage will go underneath the new court and therefore not impede play on the court. It has an expected lifetime of, I think I read 20 years, maybe 15 years. So, it's hard to say. I would say that this playground, especially the courts, basketball courts and the pickleball courts, probably one of the most used facilities in town at the moment. Or at least for the past 2 years, I think. So I would say what he is looking at ultimately doing is not maintenance, but a completely new court at that court.
And I can just clarify by reading the definition of maintenance in CPA law, which is maintenance is incidental repairs which neither materially add to the value of the property nor appreciably prolong the property's life, but keep the property in a condition of fitness, efficiency, or readiness. So to me, it does sound appreciably prolonging the property's life and adding to the value.
And speaking to the basketball court itself, which is being used by the pickleball people too, it is deteriorating significantly. And the pylons that are mentioned up here are on the pickleball court itself, the enclosed pickleball court. And they rest on asphalt, and the heat of during the summer has basically pushed them down further into the ground, so that the net is not at regulation. So I mean, it's a small thing, but
Are there other questions?
Travis, what you were reading was,
That was
were you
me.
suggesting that it's about maintenance?
I was just reading what maintenance is,
Yes,
so we
yeah.
can compare and contrast whether it is maintenance or not.
Yeah.
And then the only other comment I had was, right now, it doesn't show the recreation department as an applicant, and the recreation department would need to be a co-applicant on a full
I
application.
believe that Mike has spoken with.
Okay,
Christie?
just wanted to clarify that.
Here, Christie, has that discussion happened or is it about to happen?
Sorry, I couldn't get it to unmute. Yes, Mike reached out to me. Can you hear me? This is Christy.
Yes, yep.
And we said that we would meet after it was reviewed by you guys.
Okay, great.
So I
Thank you.
supported his pre-application to move it forward.
Any other comments or questions?
I could add a few things because he sent me a write-up that I think he intends to submit. He's also looking at including the solar lighting for the court to extend, allow play to extend earlier in the morning during the winter or later on in the evening. As well as this court. And also, I mentioned a sunshade for the bench because the bench is directly in the sun. Those are the only two other aspects of this proposal that will come up.
I would
So
say, excuse me, go ahead.
No,
Do you have a question?
I'm just, what is this request under them?
Recreation.
Under recreation, it's
What box?
Rehabilitation. and
Rehabilitation. The one thing that I would say to you is, again, it's unlikely that we're going to be able to fully fund you. So if you can explain exactly which part of this project, because it may take a while to get all those things done, which part that you expect
most
our
important,
funding to
yeah.
go to.
Right,
Would be really
right.
helpful.
And I have no idea of any of the costs.
We understand that. We don't expect you to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't expect you to have that information now, but that will be part of the discussion for a full proposal. Okay, and with that, any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion that this project is eligible.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay, Missy seconds. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, Donna,
Yes.
Travis.
Yes.
Becky. Yep. Garth,
Yes.
Christie.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, that one moves forward, deemed as eligible. Okay, Greenfield Public Library.
Here.
Hello. Okay, and this is for the local history room. And is to let's see, it's for preservation of various materials that are within that room. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of unique pieces from the history of Greenfield and Franklin County. And they've been moved around for years and years and years, and the signs are cracked and the maps are falling apart, and they'll need to have an assessment of exactly the type of work that needs to be done. And most of it is probably preservation specialists tend to be on the very kind of light side. So it would be more probably rehousing into preservation friendly folders and boxes, so that storage, proper storage, or safer storage, and just facilitate access and use. I think they're worth preserving. There are many unique pieces that you can't find anywhere else, so they get used a lot as well.
So Madam Chair, this seems absolutely eligible to me, so I make a motion to move it forward.
Do I have a second?
Okay.
Okay, Travis seconds. Okay, do we have any discussion?
I do have one thing, which
Yes.
is that historic resources either need to be on the state historic registry or need to be deemed historic. What's the language? Historic in regards to Greenfield.
Historically significant.
Historically significant, that's the word, by the Historic Commission. So these materials would need to go for the Historic Commission and be deemed historically relevant to Greenfield in order to get CPA funding.
So,
Okay, so I need to reach out to them.
Yes.
yes,
You basically give them a list of the materials and say, I'm requesting CPA funding and I'm looking for you to deem these historically significant, and they'll vote yes or no. And if you get a yes vote, then you can include that whenever it happens and send it over to me.
And ask them for a letter to
Yep.
us.
yep.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, in that case, go for a vote. Donna?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Yes. Becky? Yes, before I even asked her. Garth?
Yes.
Wisty?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, Rec Department. Hillside Park STEM installation. Okay.
Is the
So-
additional recreation piece that'll get installed in Hillside Park, right?
That's correct.
Yes,
That's correct. It's an effort to encourage critical thinking and innovation in children as they are doing play. It would have an elaborate design of levers and pulleys and slides and switches, similar to if anybody's used Montessori stuff. It's that kind of thing.
right.
And
Mhm.
which would encourage kids to think through problems and make decisions about what their next thing to do would be.
Right, and they are two-sided objects with lots of levers. There's marbles inside and that kind of stuff, and I got to see it. I got to see pictures of them last night, so they're pretty cool.
Yeah, there's actually a photo in here. of what they
Oh,
look
yeah.
like.
There you go.
Just
Yeah.
most helpful.
I saw that it said 3 pages, so I thought the photo might be attached, but I wasn't sure.
There we go.
How long would those be around? Like, what's their lifespan? I wonder.
Christy, do you have an answer?
Yeah, they're built, Becky, by playground equipment, so anywhere from 15 to 20 years. Obviously, the parts, there will be replacement pieces if something was to break, like all playgrounds that we would have to replace. But they're really cool. We don't have anything like this in town. And I think it would be a great addition.
Any questions, comments?
The only other thing I would add is that this should actually be recreational land rehabilitation and restoration instead of creation, because creation is only for creating new recreation land.
Yeah.
And where this is rehabilitating the land with a new feature.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
It's so
It
confusing.
it is, it's
I know.
totally confusing, and I'm so thankful that Travis has studied this. Anybody else's imagination.
On recreational.
Yeah.
Yep.
Recreation.
Okay.
Rehabilitation.
So Chrissy, you have that?
I would
Yep.
motion to move this one forward.
Second,
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, can we go to a vote? Okay. Donna,
yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Yes.
Becky, Garth,
Yes.
Wisty.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, thank you. Okay, we're going to get a couple more to go. Okay, Noble Home, Greywater Recycling Pilot Project. Matt, you're the person?
So what is this? Oh, this.
Right now you're muted, so, okay. This is, proposing to build 24 small affordable condo units as a model for climate resilient urban development within the Connecticut River watershed. The funding is requested for the design and permitting and construction of gray water treatment system that would protect the river, groundwater, and ease on the burden on the municipal stormwater or wastewater systems by treating over 1,000 gallons a day on site. And it would be permitted by DEP to show that how the wastewater can benefit and not burden community. And if this is a creation, community housing. You had an email from on this one as well?
Yeah, from Stuart. So this was the other one I reached out to Stuart about. And he said this one does sound like it is eligible. My question to him was framed as the CPC money would only be funding the wastewater section of this project. Is there for some reason CPA particular about only funding that part and not the actual housing unit part? But that didn't, he wasn't worried about that aspect at all. He was mostly just worried about whether or not the housing units themselves would be affordable. And so he said, as long as all of the units, every single one of them are affordable to 100% of the area median income, this should be an eligible project. He described it as if all the units are affordable, then it would probably qualify as part of creation of an affordable housing development. The city would have to hold the affordable housing restrictions on the units, of course, and you would want to request the pro forma from the developer to prove that there is a need for the additional funding. But according to Stuart, it seems like it's good to go.
Okay, so Matt, these would be affordable at 100% or less?
Not only affordable, but they're actually, there's in the contract, when you buy the unit, you can't sell it for more than its assessed value. So it's supposed to create community without development. You know, people buying into the places and jacking the prices up. And then on top of that, the water would be used for the community laundry rooms and a greenhouse. I believe we're going to have quite a large greenhouse, and we've got Berkshire Design working on the project and a civil engineer also. So it'd be gonna be quite interesting and exciting.
Where is it gonna be, Matt?
Stone Farm
Oh,
Lane.
yeah,
Okay.
down at the bottom of
Yep,
Stone Farm?
the parcel's been split up. It's somewhat complicated into like 3 different groups, and we're responsible for, I believe, 7 acres that we want to put 24 units on.
Okay. Any other questions for Matt or discussion here?
The only thing I'm just gonna add that I donated to the Valley Community Land Trust to help buy that parcel, and I'm gonna be filling out a form that I do not have a conflict of interest.
Okay.
Even though don't believe there's even the appearance of a conflict of interest, but just for clarity's sake.
Thanks, Travis.
And that goes for other projects tonight that are also on that same parcel.
Anything more to ask Matt about this particular project? Okay, do I have
A motion
A
to
motion.
move forward? I'll make that motion.
Okay, Donna makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And Travis seconds it. Okay, do we have any discussion about it beyond this? Okay, then we'll move to a vote. Donna,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
Garth,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes,
and I'm a yes. Okay, so that one moves forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Pioneer Valley Habitat for Humanity Birch Street Project. I think I know exactly where this is. Matter of fact. Okay, this would be to build a 2-bedroom, energy efficient, single family home on Birch Street with a home price set under $200,000 and sold to a family earning 60% of the area median income and deeded affordable in perpetuity.
Motion to accept.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
But I have a question.
Sure.
Is this the same situation as the house, the Habitat house that's up on near Wisdom Way?
Yeah.
So it's that, and so it'll be a lottery situation.
Megan? Yes, lottery?
Yep, and we would ask the town to do a local action unit application with us to put the affordability restriction on the property.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Megan or comments? Okay. I have do I have a motion and a second, you seconded it, okay? Then we'll move forward on this. I'm getting lost in this process here. Okay, Donna,
Yes.
Travis.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Garth.
Yes.
Wisty.
Yeah.
I'm a yes. Okay, that one moves forward. Thanks, Megan. Okay, Valley Community Land Trust Public Asset for Poets Seat Trails. And this is Sarah's, and Sarah's here.
Evie from Valley Community Land Trust might be on Zoom too.
Okay. Okay. Well, we will ask, and anyone can answer who feels it's appropriate. This is a project that will protect public access for the lands, for the trails abutting the city-owned land on Stone Farm Lane. Valley Community Land Trust recently acquired 32 acres and is leasing to Valley Housing Cooperative. The goal is to create a parking lot at the trailhead with signage for the trails to the river and to Poets Seat Tower, and to ensure public access through a change of ownership and legal agreement. They'd like to work with nonprofit conservation land trusts like Mount Grace or Franklin Land Trust to hold a conservation restriction, so that this would definitely be publicly accessible for anyone who wants to go there. Questions, comments?
So one of the things that I find very, very confusing about CPC is that we have these 4 categories, which are open land, historic resource, recreation land, and community housing. And yet when we're doing our funding and we're reviewing things, open space seems to not really be a part of it. So this, because it's recreational access, I guess my question is this more like recreation? And I you're probably the best person. Sorry.
Go to.
Because-
So the definition for open space in the law is shall include but not limited to land to protect existing and future well fields, aquifers, recharge areas, watershed land, agricultural land, grasslands, fields, forest land, fresh and saltwater marshes and other wetlands, oceans, rivers, stream, lake, and pond frontage, beaches, dunes, and other coastal lands, lands to protect scenic vistas, land for wildlife or nature preserve, and land for recreational use, which I know is
Yeah, because this feels like more of an
Also
access.
recreation.
Yeah, I mean, my question also, is this acquisition? Are we actually acquiring the land? So this would be for buying that land, or would it be for creating something on that land?
Yeah, sorry, the check mark was messing me up, but I'm not.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I think, well, I wrote in the description that we're open to acquisition by the city, which would make it acquisition, or it could be a conservation restriction or a trail easement.
Okay.
And that would be more, I guess that would be a conservation.
Okay, do you own the land right now?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the questions then would be, is this land going to be used by, is this money going to be used to acquire? It does sounds like since you own the land, it's not acquisition because you're not using this money to buy the land from someone else.
Right.
The
Okay,
city could buy it from us.
the city could buy it from you, but then that would not be with these funds.
Right.
Or, so it sounds more like you're creating an open space access.
Right. Although if it's a parking lot, then that feels like contrary to sort of like open space preservation. Well, the reason that I asked the question in the first place is because usually we have these projects and then there's a city with, especially with things like this, it's usually you work in cooperation with the recreation department. And so I guess I was wondering, like, who is like the city liaison here? if not recreation?
So my understanding of where this fits, I think it would be creation of recreation land and rehabilitation and restoration of recreation land.
Mhm.
And the only reason all of the recreation projects so far have had to work with the city is because basically it either has to be on city parkland or it has to be preserved with like a conservation restriction to be permanently protected going forward. So I think this would do it the second way that no one has done yet
Yeah.
by having a conservation restriction.
So
So
therefore it would be open space.
No,
No,
I
it would
think
be
it would be
recreation?
recreation because
This is why we have these meetings.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah.
because the purpose, I think it's because the main purpose is recreation.
For recreation.
If it was like preserving, a 10-acre parcel because it's like in, a
For
watershed
frogs,
or,
yeah.
for
Right.
wildlife.
Okay.
I think, and it had a trail,
Oh.
I think that would be open
Okay.
space.
Okay.
But I think because this is specifically about trail access to existing trails, I think that makes it recreation.
So then it would make more sense. Christy, would you be able to work with them on this to clarify it and to pull together some kind of agreement?
Well, and that's where, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Christy.
Excuse me. Thank you, Travis. Yeah, I would be very interested in talking with her, because as you guys know, we are doing the trail mapping project and there are several parcels of land and I'm not exactly sure if this is the one that I think it is. That we are working with the FERCog and the land trust to get right away and easements so that our trails that actually are on private property that we have legal documentation on. So I definitely would like to talk with her about this.
Need more info?
I think I could be wrong on this and tell me if I'm wrong. I think we've established it's eligible. It's a question under one category. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see it as, I think this is one that could be under multiple categories. Like, even though we ask people to only check one.
Right.
Unfortunately, our funding is like open space and recreation is smudged together anyway, so.
Yeah,
We can just make it all kind of fuzzy and I would motion that, like, I mean, depending on the specifics of what comes out in the actual project, that this sort of thing would be eligible, right? If it's like, basically we want to, quote, oftentimes, conservation restrictions like, oh, we're buying the conservation restrictions so the landowner gets some amount of things. So it's like for $10,000, to the, whatever the Valley Community Land Trust,
Right.
that then the easement is then, and the restriction is then held by the city or it's held by Mount Grace or whomever. It becomes a permanently protected thing.
Okay.
So was that a motion, Garth?
Yes, I motion that we let this one go forward and the details will determine what happens with it.
Okay,
Second.
I will second Garth's less long.
Okay. Any more discussion or any more questions, either for Sarah or for Christy or anyone else who happens to show up?
Susan, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
So CPC funding cannot be used to create a parking lot though, correct? That is clear or not clear?
I don't remember anything about parking lots.
I hadn't thought about that when I was first looking this over. But then as we've been talking, I was like, that might need some research.
Yeah.
Because I know certain things like, for example, like sidewalks that like lead into a park but aren't within the park aren't eligible. That's just a random example. That's not super applicable here, but like sometimes things like that will have been determined to be ineligible at various points in CPA history. So that's a good question.
I will say there's no mention of parking lots in the legislation. And there's only one part where it has the word parking, but it's related to fines and it's not related to this.
All right, so
Different if it were a wooded parking area versus an asphalt parking lot?
Well, that's the thing, we don't even know.
We don't.
I mean, based on what's written here, we don't even know what the type of parking lot would be.
right, so we need to do some research, but we could move it forward with that stipulation. So Garth has made a motion. Do I have a second? Donna second. Okay, good. All right. Do we have any more discussion on this one? Okay. Donna? Yes.
Yeah.
Travis? Becky?
Yes.
Garth?
Yes.
Wisty?
Yes,
Rami, yes. Okay, so we need to do some more research on that, but with that stipulation.
Great.
Okay,
And
and
I'll reach out to Stuart because we've done a
Okay.
good job of only reaching about two so far. So a
Yes,
third one
all
shouldn't be
right,
too big a deal.
all right, there we go. We're doing all right here. Okay, and our last one, Valley Housing Cooperative acquisition of 12-unit multifamily for accessible home ownership. Accessible or affordable?
I think it would be affordable,
Okay,
but if it's, I'm not sure if we would have a specific restriction for a certain area median income, but it would be accessible to anyone below, like,
the CPC funds are allowed to be 100% of area median income or below. We cannot even go up to the 120%. So if the building is going to house folks above that, then there would have to be a stipulation within about basically which portions of the building we would be funding.
I'm certain that the current residents are below. Yeah, it would count as affordable. Yeah,
Okay,
there's like
okay.
Section 8 voucher.
My point is that within the proposal, should this be eligible? Within the proposal, you need to be very specific about that, okay? Okay.
And it has to be affordable under the 100 area
Median income
in perpetuity.
in perpetuity.
Yeah.
This
Yep.
would be also on Franklin County Community Land Trust land, so it would be,
Okay, it's the big red house, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, so we need to learn more about this. Do people have any questions?
Address?
It's,
34 Glen.
it's, right,
Okay, it is.
It's the
Okay.
building where Just Roots has its office.
Yes, okay, that's what I thought, but then she said red and I think it's brown, so I got.
It's a dark reddy brown. Okay, okay, so this would be, and this is for acquiring the property?
So then that's what I'm thinking is that we haven't entered into a purchase and sale agreement yet. So
Okay.
if, depending on the timeline of that, the check mark might have to move down to preservation or support. But if we're trying to get the max timeline on the purchase and sale agreement.
Okay,
And so that way, if funds are released in June, that it would go towards acquisition.
okay, we will be, I think one of the things that you will need to be clear about in the proposal is exactly what our funds would go toward. And since you'll be putting this in November and probably won't have the purchase and sale done.
No, we'll have a purchase.
Oh, you have
before.
purchase, okay,
Yeah.
so then but it could be, it isn't creation, but it could be preservation. Or it could be support, depending on what you're asking for in relation. So look at that chart, and if you have any questions about where it stands, call Christian. He'll probably go, I have to check with Stuart, but we'll get an answer for you on where exactly it fits. Okay, do we have any other questions for Sarah about this? No, okay. We have a motion.
Motion to let that one go forward.
Garth, this motion,
Lambert
second?
Drive.
Second from Wisty.
Madam Chair, I want to disclose that I filed a potential appearance of conflict of interest on this one because I am the president of the board of Just Roots and I know that they are housed in the building. And so I will also be abstaining.
Okay, All right. Do we want to move toward an eligibility vote on this? Okay. Travis,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
Garth,
Yes.
Wisty,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes yes and 1 abstention. Okay. Well, it is 20 minutes of 7.
Good.
Yeah, so we have
gotten so much better.
We have gotten better. Definitely have gotten better at this. Okay. Do we want to go to old business? How do we, where do we have updates on our CPC
Yeah,
project?
only thing remaining is just updates on older projects. Christy, do you want to just share the updates? I talked with you on the phone and what you told me was like the perfect level of detail. Could you just share the updates on yours?
Of course. So we just finished the paving project at the high school track. So we'll be able to finish that. DPW did a fabulous job with that. And you'll see in the budget, it did go a little bit over, but Marlo and I were creative and we sort of found different sources to cover the increase in costs with the concrete and whatnot. But it looks great. And just last week, we were all walking on the track and used that access way. So it's fabulous. So thank you for your support on that. The Bocce Court project, we just put in I think it was 8 arborvitaes with that project. So there's a few punch list things left with the contractor, and we'll be able to send the closeout form for that. And let's see, the site amenities. We are just waiting. As you guys know, we've had some turnover with DPW. They still have the 2 pieces to put at the middle school. So they'll be doing that hopefully this fall before winter. And then we'll be able to close that project out. And am I forgetting one? Let me look at your note here. Oh, the trail project with Kim Boaz. We're probably going to have to ask for an extension with that. We've gone back and forth with the state a couple times and with the Appalachian Mountain Club and myself, and I guess we have not answered all of their questions yet. So Travis, I know you're there. I may call you in to help with that again. It's a very time-consuming process. And sorry, I thought somebody said something.
Someone
and
just
then,
said yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you, Travis. And then the pickleball project, I'm still waiting for the design plans from the designer and engineer that we worked with to hold the public meeting, so that will be ready for bidding once we secure all the funding for that project. I think that's everything. Did I forget one? I think that's it.
Which pickleball project is that?
This is the one at Abercrombie.
Yeah, the first year of CPA, we funded.
Oh, yeah.
Study.
Yeah, okay.
All right. And so then updates on other projects that are not recreation. Barn rehabilitation obviously is complete. I just want to note, since they're requesting funding for a second time, that we're still waiting on the preservation restriction to be finalized, or not even to be finalized, to get reviewed by the Mass Historic Commission. This is not something that's all that unusual. I spoke with my group of other CPA administrators around the state. As you know, it's been more than a year since that project was funded, and this isn't unusual that we're still waiting.
Okay.
So that would be something to make sure we pay attention to as we consider funding a second time.
Christian, does that put their current application at risk because this one's not completely zipped up?
I don't think so. I mean, the project is complete. It's just the condition you placed on it about requiring a preservation restriction, which could be done at any point in the future. Obviously, timelier would be better. Yeah.
Okay.
The Historic Society is still working on their document preservation project. The Museum of Our Industrial Heritage just recently sent me a project update. They've already got some of the parts fabricated for their shop equipment restoration, which was great to see.
Sorry, which was that?
That's the Museum of Our Industrial Heritage shop equipment restoration. CSO is continuing their march towards the Wells Street shelter expansion. Let's see, and then so that's everything from FY23 for FY 2024, the ones that just got voted on by City Council this spring. Isaac is already making really quick work of his project over at the Garden Cinema and the Garden Block buildings. He actually already put in his first request for disbursement this past week. Just to keep all of you in the loop, it was for 19,398. So it's a little bit more than half. He sent pictures in. It's pretty clear that they're making progress towards it. So that check will get sent out tomorrow. Did I talk about Tim Grader's project being canceled at the
Seeing that as a surprise.
Yeah, so I think that happened like right after your last meeting, which was actually quite a while ago since you skipped the you had August, the super early August meeting. He ended up completing that project without the CPA funding. He found a way where he did not need the CPA funding. So that will actually get returned back into the pool of funding for this year, assuming we can do that with accounting, which you should be able to. So that's actually 20,000. It came from the flexible pool. So I know you have the 193,000 that's in the flexible pool. You actually have another 20K in there. So 213,000. And then Tim Grader's downtown housing project, the agreement got signed recently. Oxbow Design Build Co-op's housing project also signed their agreement. And then Habitat has signed their agreement and their construction is well underway up there by the fairgrounds.
Yeah. The walls are almost all up.
Yep.
Looks really good. Yeah.
And then me and Christy we're working this week on getting hers signed for her projects. So
What was the one between Tim Grader and Habitat?
that was the Oxbow Design Build project over on Hope Street. So
Okay,
Good
any
updates.
questions for Christian? Okay,
Right.
good. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
There are a couple of things like when the applications come in that we really look at closely. And I wonder if those issues should be brought up to the applicants so they kind of understand that. One of them being, remember the way we wanted to completely fund some things so that they were done? So if I were putting in an application, I would want to know that there were some specific interests of this group. Like give us some small pieces or, that we could complete or something. I don't know what it might be. Do you know what I'm saying?
Isn't that the responsibility of the applicant?
Well, in a way, except if I were the applicant and the group already had some things that it was specifically looking for, in a way, it's in our application, but I'm just not so sure.
Let me take a stab and see if I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
For instance, at the first proposal that came before us from the Connecticut River watershed, I saw the word workstations and I'm like, workstations and historic preservation, like they don't really go together for me, But then when they talked about the floor repair and the windows, then it's like, okay, that makes sense to me as historic preservation. And so what are you saying that when we speak with our applicants, we'd be like, well, we really think we could fund this much for the windows and floors, but you're probably not going to get the rest. Because I don't know.
Doesn't that all depend on sort of where things fall after we've gotten all the full applications back? Some people,
Yeah.
probably won't drop out, but what if they did?
In a way, but last year, one of the things that seemed really important to us was that we be able to give a total amount of funds rather than keeping nickel and diming people to say, oh, we'll give you this and this and this. So given your example that you just said, what if they said, we want this much money to pay for the floor and the windows? So then we would know a discrete amount of money that they wanted and it was for these discrete things.
Isn't that what Susan has been saying?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if the applicants are, look at that whole list of things they have.
Right.
I'm not sure of the extent to which they have.
In the actual thing, it says, what would you do with partial funding or what would partial funding thing? So people can certainly go in there and say like, well, if we get 10 grand, we can do 2 windows. If we get 50 grand, we can do all the windows and the floor.
Yeah, I think that it's problematic to be like, well, we don't think we'll be able to give you all the money, but we could probably give you this, so why don't you write it this way? That feels wrong.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is if we can get more of a clearer level of itemization. I mean, I think that that's something we've been working towards, asking for more help with understanding, like, what are the plans, like, how do you break this down? And
Right.
because I think that if we had a better idea of itemization, we'd also have to need to know, like, okay, yeah, it's great that the floors are gonna cost X amount of dollars, but if the roof's leaking, there's no point, in doing the floors. So I feel like there are two things at play there. One of them is like having discrete costs for portions of the project, and also like understanding clearly what's the most urgent and really needs to be done.
Okay, I like that example that you used, because then, when we say how much money we think that we would give to a certain project, if it were itemized, we would have a more clear idea rather than just picking out, well, I'll give them 27,000. Well, for what?
Yeah, although, I mean, it does come down in our deliberations, like, sometimes it's like, well, this is what we have left, so, where can it go the farthest or whatever?
Yeah, I think that we've been asking for that. I think that perhaps in a general email to all of the applicants, we could do something that we could ask Christian to say something like, we are particularly looking for itemization of the various parts of cost breakdown of what you're going to be asking, what you're going to be requesting, so that we have a good idea. So we can say, okay, if we give you $10,000, you can do the roof. And we know you can finish the roof, as opposed to, we're giving you $10,000, what do you want to do with it? So I think we can do that. I think that's a good point, but I don't want to tell them to ask for a certain amount of money.
Right, yeah, no, you can't do that. So one of the things that we had talked about as part of our process, adding in, and something that I represented to the audience tonight, was that we had talked about having an information session for all people who have put in pre-apps moving forward, to help answer their questions and with their understanding of, what's acceptable, what do we mean when we ask this question, et cetera. So have we scheduled that?
No.
I think the plan was to have that at the regular October meeting date, because you won't have anything to really discuss otherwise.
Oh, okay,
So
okay,
that would be at October 24th when we have our next meeting.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, now I just have a question too. So have we been putting money aside into open space, even though we haven't really given any money to it, so that it already has a certain amount? Because isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Recreation and open space are considered the same category for the 10%.
Lumped together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so just to try to summarize, of the 14 applications we received, we approved 13 of them for eligibility in terms of moving forward. We still need some clarification on the public access of the Poet Street, the Poet Seat Trail application, in terms of, is there a question around parking lots, and what does that mean?
That's 13.
13, yeah. So we'll try to get that, Christian will try to get that as quickly as we can, and get it back to Sarah as quickly as possible, so that you know what we're talking about. And for the next meeting, we had, in terms of internal issues, we had talked about discussing the question of, should we have any kind of limitation around how many absences people can have, whether those are absences in a row or whatever. We haven't had that discussion for this grouping, and I think we should have it at the October meeting. We've been putting it off a little bit because of this and all that.
But that, if that's the session where pre-application information, you won't have time for that.
We should have time.
May not. talk
This,
about
it will not be, we won't be going application by application. It'll be much more, anybody got any questions? And we can do that. So we can set aside an amount of time for that. But this is something that we've been talking about for a while and we haven't got to, and I think we need to get to this whole question of eligibility questions for our, in terms of absences. Because we've had some people who have been absent a great deal, and we have other people who, haven't, and I don't want us to get into a quorum problem later, so.
And there's
For
probably plenty of
our
people
members,
who,
not like how many times someone can apply to the.
No, we're talking about our members in our meetings. How many times can people be absent from our meetings before we ask their appointed body to possibly appoint someone else? That kind of thing. Because we've had several people who have been absent for, 3-4 meetings in a row. And that's just not, it doesn't help our cohesion. It doesn't help us do our work.
Yeah. I have a question. Christian, is there any sort of roster, like, do we have any data on members and attendance? Like, is there a spreadsheet?
Not a spreadsheet, but you could definitely.
You can just get it in the minutes, yeah. It would be helpful so when I look for minutes, I don't see them in the shared Google Drive.
They're on the city website.
Okay, so.
Yeah, CPC.
it just says committee present. It doesn't say committee absent members on the meeting minutes. So you wouldn't have a way unless you.
Yeah.
know.
Oh, I mean, it's supposed to. So if we're not doing that, we should always.
I think that we should actually have a roster. I like to see something more in a grid. I think it's helpful. So I will work on looking at that and making a spreadsheet. I do want to circle back. I do want to circle back to the information session though, because my understanding of it when we discussed it earlier in the year was that we talked about, do we want to have, we used the word bidders conference, and well, it's not necessarily a bidders conference, but we do want to have an information session with the applicants where it's not just, okay, do you have any questions? But like we explain CPC and what's,
Didn't we just do that though in August?
Yeah. Maybe I misunderstood our conversations earlier in the year. Is what I'm saying like resonating with anyone? Because if not, I'll just say that I guess I
Detail
misunderstood.
would be helpful certainly for me, but
Yeah, I was understanding it as like application, like questions about the application and like you're asking this question, but what do you really mean? What should we be putting here? Yeah.
Right, that kind of stuff. That's what I thought it was too, is that, looking at the application in relation to my project, I don't understand what this might mean. Can you explain it?
And I thought earlier on, we were
We're trying to
talking,
do X, Y, and Z. How can we fit that in?
Yeah.
Or would that make sense on your application kind of thing?
okay, and Garth, what do you mean? Like I've had people say, and a specific thing, and whether or not, we would approve this. I've had people say, I really would like to put in something about fixing up the pond at Highland. Okay, so whether or not we would fix up the pond, they say, is that something that we would do? They have no idea, where to go, what might be possible.
But I think that's our spring stuff or.
I do too.
Yeah, or later, that's when that's before anybody
we've
does a
already-
pre-app,
Yeah, we've discussed like that specific one. We've discussed a number of times. We've had it brought forward. We've like accepted it as a pre-application. We then rejected it as a
I just use that as an
rejected funding.
example.
So like people can like, I guess, keep coming back.
No. Garth, I was just using that as an example. It's the principle of the thing about people just not being clear about what we do. Okay, so Susan, you did a really good job bringing up something that we have brought up before. So if we could bring this other thing up in the spring. And I do want to say one other thing. As we're building more and more housing, the issue of playgrounds within that housing is going to come up. And so I don't know if there's a kind of a policy that we could do, or if in the course of, if there is some way that the land has to be deeded, if we could like warn people who are doing it, but surely if people are building housing, they're gonna have more.
I think the question is that if people are building housing, our money is not going to be the decisive money. So people can put up playgrounds, but whether they can do it with the money that we have is the question. So that's, I think that's more the issue, is because our $300,000, even when we're having a good year, is, it will not put up one apartment, very honestly. So just from scratch. Go ahead.
Does this 200 and whatever it is, 213, does that include the state match? Or is that not been
So
decided
this
yet?
is the remaining money from basically kind of been pooling for multiple years for the last couple of years. So there was FY 22, which didn't have a state match. It was only what the city collected. That's how it works for the first year. FY 23, the local collections and the state match, and the FY 24 collections, both state and local. And this is everything that's left over after you spent through all that. So and some of it is at that point it's all just one
It's all
pool.
together.
Yeah.
What happened was that because of when we were giving out money and when the state cycle happened, we were always a little out of kilter. And so the reason this money is less is because we're trying to regulate ourselves so we can be in line with when we get the state match as well. And this is our effort to regulate that.
And is the state matched? How is that decided?
It's determined by DOR, Department of Revenue.
Does it matter how much money you have in?
The only thing that matters is what percentage of a surcharge you have. So the Greenfield is a 1% surcharge, so we get the base match. And then they'll sometimes have like additional distributions, and theoretically I think that could go to people that have the 1% surcharge, but because there's obviously not enough to go around, that goes to the people that have a 2% or 3% surcharge, and they'll get additional funds.
I think they do it the other way around.
Up to the amount
Need first.
of how much they collected on the local side.
You'll
So I think
note that on, I think it's Tuesday or the following Tuesday, Deerfield's having a special town meeting to decide whether they put $8 million or something like that into their 1888 town worth of CPA funding to help out that $20 million project.
Right.
So,
Right.
right. Obviously, if the town steps up significantly, your match is a lot better. And
It also has to do with
regardless of your percentage, if your base is, $5 million, if it's a 20% match, that's gonna be a lot more money than like our base is 100,000 or 200,000.
Right.
It also has to do with what the value of your property is.
Well, is the value of property and also how much the citizens voted in to surcharge.
Right.
Right.
So the 1% is not because based on need, it's based on what the citizens of
Right,
Greenfield
no, I
voted.
remember.
Oh, okay.
Does that ever get re-upped? The question go back to not.
Yeah, it can.
It
It
can.
would have to go through a town vote.
Yeah.
Full town vote.
Yeah.
So
We have enough.
When it was
Yeah, I
originally,
think-
it was
I think
trying
we
to
have
like
enough right now.
slip it
Yeah.
in with the bare minimum.
Well,
Because
I think-
Greenfield has historically been so anti-paying for anything
Yeah.
until stuff actually falls apart. And even then,
Well, I think that if we can just, continue being rock stars, we might sway people's minds
Right.
because it was an unknown when we got it to pass through the first time, but now people are getting more familiar with it.
I think we need a good 5 years under our belts before we start going to anybody saying, we want more money.
right.
Okay,
Yeah, if we're able to say,
it's a-
like, hey, look at all these cool projects we've done.
That's
You know,
right.
we could have done X, Y, and Z more if we'd, and gotten X more match if we had a slightly higher percentage.
Okay, it's 7:06, and I would like to know if there is
A motion to adjourn?
Yes.
So moved.
Okay. Donna.
Yes.
Travis. Becky. Garth.
Yes.
Wisty.
Yes.
Okay, and I mean, yes, all right. Our next meeting is October 24th at 5:30 PM. Here, is it gonna be here?
Yep.
it'll be here or on Zoom. And thank you all very, very much. And we
Thank
got
you.
through a lot of stuff
Great.
tonight.